The silent signal. Sarah Chen never expected to make first contact during the graveyard shift at Mauna Kea's Quantum Resonance Observatory. The facility, perched high above Hawaii's clouds, housed Earth's most sensitive quantum detection array, technology that most considered a waste of resources. After all, conventional radio astronomy had been searching for alien signals for over a century without success. But on this night, as she monitored the steady stream of quantum fluctuation data, something changed. At first, it was barely perceptible, a slight pattern in the quantum noise that shouldn't have been there. Sarah almost dismissed it as an equipment malfunction, but 15 years of experience told her otherwise. "Computer, run a deep scan on grid 47 alpha," she commanded, fingers dancing across her haptic interface. The quantum computers hummed to life, processing the astronomical data through algorithms she had spent years perfecting. The results made her blood run cold. What she was seeing wasn't just a pattern, it was a perfectly ordered quantum state extending across several light hours of space. Something or someone had frozen a massive section of spacetime into a crystalline quantum structure. The mathematics were clear. This was no natural phenomenon. "Dr. Richardson," Sarah's voice trembled slightly as she contacted her supervisor, "I think you need to see this." Within hours, the observatory's main control room was filled with the world's leading quantum physicists and astronomers. The data painted an incredible picture. Approximately 12 billion kilometers from Earth, just beyond the Kuiper Belt, space itself had been crystallized into a quantum matrix. Dr. James Richardson, a tall man with steel-gray hair and calculating eyes, studied the three-dimensional holographic projection floating above the main console. "It's a distress signal," he announced finally, "the most sophisticated one ever created." "How can you be sure?" asked Dr. Patel from the Quantum Physics Division. "Because," Richardson explained, pointing to the shifting patterns in the hologram, "it's repeating in perfect mathematical sequences. Prime numbers, Fibonacci series, and," he paused, "coordinates. Whoever created this wanted to be found, and they wanted to make absolutely certain their signal would be noticed by a civilization advanced enough to detect quantum-level engineering." Sarah leaned forward, studying the patterns she'd first discovered. But why go to such extreme lengths? Conventional radio signals would have been far simpler. Unless, Richardson's voice grew quiet, they had no choice. "Look at the energy requirements to maintain this quantum crystal structure. It's astronomical. Nobody would do this unless every other option had failed." The implications slowly dawned on everyone in the room. Somewhere out there, an advanced civilization was in trouble, and they had placed their distress beacon right on humanity's doorstep. General Laura Hayes from the United Nations Space Command arrived within the next hour. She moved with the decisive efficiency of someone used to making world-changing decisions. "What are our options?" "The quantum crystal is degrading," Sarah explained, pulling up the latest scans. "We estimate we have maybe 72 hours before it collapses completely. Whatever's trapped inside that matrix, ships, beings, data, will be lost when that happens." "Can we reach them in time?" Hayes asked. Richardson shook his head. "Our fastest ships would take weeks to reach that position. But," he held up a hand as Hayes started to speak, "we might not need to. The quantum matrix is like a massive computer, and we're already connected to it through our detection array. If we can decode their protocol, we could communicate," Sarah finished, excitement building in her voice. "We already have the quantum computing infrastructure here. With some modifications, we could." "Do it," Hayes ordered. "Whatever resources you need. I'll have the UN Security Council's authorization within the hour." For the next 24 hours, Sarah and her team worked without rest, reconfiguring the observatory's quantum computers to interface with the alien matrix. It was like trying to write a translation program between two completely unknown languages, where one of them operated on principles that defied conventional physics. Finally, At hour 25, they made contact. The first message materialized as pure mathematics before being converted to text. To those who hear our call, we are the crystalline confluence, and we are dying. Our attempt to transcend conventional spacetime has failed. 300,000 souls are trapped in quantum stasis, our bodies and ships preserved in a matrix we can no longer control. We chose this location knowing that only a species on the cusp of quantum enlightenment could detect us. Will you help? Sarah looked at the faces around her, scientists, military leaders, politicians who had arrived from around the world. In their eyes, she saw the same thing she felt, a mixture of fear and exhilaration. Humanity's first contact would not be a greeting or an exchange of knowledge, but a rescue mission that would push their understanding of physics to its absolute limit. Tell them, Hayes commanded, her voice firm with resolve, that humanity accepts the challenge. As Sarah composed humanity's first message to an alien civilization, she couldn't help but smile. All those years of being ridiculed for studying quantum archaeology, the search for artificial quantum structures in space, had led to this moment. Humanity was about to attempt something unprecedented, saving an advanced civilization using technology they'd barely understood. The rescue mission would push human ingenuity to its absolute limit. But as Sarah looked at the determination on the faces around her, she knew one thing with certainty. If any species could find a way to save the crystalline confluence, it would be humanity. After all, impossible rescues were something of a human specialty. The frozen stars. The quantum computers at Mauna Kea worked ceaselessly, translating vast streams of data from the crystalline matrix. With each passing hour, the true scope of the crisis became clearer and more daunting. Dr. Sarah Chen hadn't slept in 36 hours, but adrenaline kept her focused as she briefed the hastily assembled International Quantum Response Team. The holographic display behind her showed the latest simulation of the crystalline confluence's predicament. Their civilization discovered a way to manipulate quantum states on a massive scale, she explained, gesturing to the shimmering visualization. They created ships that could essentially freeze themselves into quantum superposition, allowing them to traverse vast distances by stepping outside normal spacetime. Like quantum tunneling on a cosmic scale, Dr. Patel interjected, his eyes wide with understanding. Exactly, but something went wrong during their last jump. Sarah manipulated the hologram, zooming in on the complex crystalline structures. Instead of emerging at their destination, they became trapped, frozen between states. Their entire fleet, 300,000 beings, exists in a kind of quantum limbo. Dr. Richardson stepped forward, his face grave. And now the matrix is destabilizing. When it collapses, the quantum wave function will collapse with it. There's no way to predict what state they'll emerge in, but the chances of survival are virtually zero, finished General Hayes. The military leader had spent the last day coordinating with governments worldwide, preparing for what might be humanity's most ambitious project ever. The quantum computers chimed, indicating another message from the confluence. Our records indicate your species has barely begun to explore quantum engineering. Yet you were able to detect and communicate with us. How? Sarah smiled as she composed the response. We've been searching for exactly this kind of quantum structure. One of our scientists theorized that advanced civilizations might leave behind quantum archaeological remains. We built the detection array to find them. The response came quickly. You built technology to find something you weren't sure existed. Why? Because that's what humans do, Sarah typed. We explore, we search, we prepare for possibilities. As she worked, teams around the world were mobilizing. The Chinese government had redirected their entire quantum computing network to assist with calculations. The European Space Agency was retrofitting satellites to help maintain communication with the matrix. Even private companies were contributing resources, recognizing that this crisis could advance human technology by decades. But time was running out. The matrix's degradation was accelerating. We need to understand exactly how their quantum drive works, Dr. Richardson announced to the team. If we can grasp the principles, we might be able to help them complete their transition instead of leaving them trapped between states. The Confluence shared their technical data freely, but much of it might as well have been magic. Their quantum engineering operated on principles that human physics had barely begun to theorize about. It was like teaching calculus to someone who had just mastered addition. Yet the humans refused to give up. Teams of scientists worked in shifts, breaking down the alien concepts into smaller pieces they could understand. Quantum computing experts collaborated with theoretical physicists, each contributing pieces to an impossible puzzle. Sarah found herself working closely with Dr. Yuki Tanaka, a brilliant but eccentric quantum theorist from Japan. While others focused on the grand scale of the problem, Yuki became obsessed with a tiny anomaly in the matrix structure. "Look here," she pointed out during their third consecutive night of work. "The quantum states aren't perfectly aligned. There's a ripple effect, like waves interfering with each other." Sarah leaned in, studying the pattern. Could that be what went wrong? Some kind of quantum interference that amplified through their entire system. Possibly, but more importantly, Yuki's eyes lit up with excitement. It might be their salvation. If we can understand how these ripples propagate. The two scientists worked through the night, developing a new theory. The Confluence's technology was indeed far beyond human understanding, but the principles of wave interference were universal. If they couldn't solve the quantum engineering problem, maybe they could approach it as a wave dynamics problem instead. Their breakthrough came just as the Matrix showed signs of imminent collapse. "We can't stop the degradation," Sarah explained to General Hayes and the assembled team, "but we might be able to guide it, like surfing a wave as it breaks." "Can you explain that in terms the Security Council will understand?" Hayes asked. Sarah took a deep breath. "We're going to build the largest quantum wave generator ever created. When the matrix collapses, we'll use it to create a resonance pattern that should guide the Confluence's ships back into normal space-time. Think of it as creating a path through the quantum foam." "The power requirements would be enormous," Dr. Richardson warned. "Which is why we'll need every quantum computer on Earth working in perfect synchronization." Sarah pulled up the global network diagram. "We'll have one shot at this. If our timing is off by even a microsecond, the implications hung heavy in the air. Success would mean saving hundreds of thousands of lives and gaining access to technology centuries ahead of human development. Failure wouldn't just doom the Confluence. The quantum backlash could fry every computer system on Earth." General Hayes studied the proposal for a long moment before reaching for her secure phone. "I'll inform the Security Council. How long do you need to prepare?" Sarah looked at the degradation readings, then at her team of exhausted but determined scientists. "The matrix will collapse in approximately 18 hours. We'll be ready in 17. As the general left to coordinate the global response, Sarah turned back to her computers. The Confluence had shared one last message. "Your species is attempting something our civilization would consider impossible with your current technology. Why take such a risk for strangers?" Sarah's response was simple. "Because that's what humanity does best. We see impossible problems as challenges to overcome, and we never leave anyone behind, even those we just met." The next 17 hours would prove whether human determination could truly overcome the laws of physics themselves. Project Thor. The world had never seen cooperation on this scale before. As news of the quantum crisis spread, traditional rivalries and political tensions melted away in the face of a challenge that threatened not just the crystalline confluence, but potentially Earth's entire technological infrastructure. Sarah Chen stood in the newly established Quantum Command Center, converted from a basketball arena in Silicon Valley. Giant screens covered every wall, displaying real-time data from quantum computing centers across the globe. Each screen represented thousands of computers, all being synchronized into what would become humanity's largest computational network ever created. "Status report," General Hayes called out, her voice carrying across the bustling arena. Dr. Yuki Tanaka responded first, her fingers dancing across multiple holographic interfaces. The Chinese quantum grid is online. European network synchronizing now. We're at 47% of required computing power. India's quantum chain just came online, another technician announced. Pushing us to 53%. Sarah studied the master display, watching as more nations joined the effort. Each new connection brought them closer to the power they'd need to generate their quantum wave, but it also increased the complexity of their synchronization challenge exponentially. Message from the confluence, Dr. Richardson announced from his station. Their matrix stability is declining faster than predicted. New collapse estimate, 15 hours. Sarah felt her stomach tighten. They'd just lost 2 precious hours of preparation time. She opened a channel to the alien vessels. Can you reinforce the matrix structure? The response was immediate, negative. All available energy is devoted to maintaining quantum coherence of our life support systems. We are, as you might say, walking a tightrope. A new voice cut through the tension. Dr. Chen, there's someone here you need to meet. Sarah turned to find Dr. Richardson accompanying a teenager, a girl no more than 16, wearing a NASA t-shirt and looking simultaneously nervous and excited. This is Maya Patel, Richardson explained. She's the one who created the quantum synchronization algorithm we're using. Sarah blinked in surprise. The algorithm was a breakthrough in quantum computing, allowing disparate systems to work in perfect harmony despite varying architectures and physical distances. It was the only reason their global network was possible at all. You wrote this? Sarah asked, studying the young girl with new respect. Maya nodded shyly. I developed it for an online gaming network. It was supposed to eliminate lag in multiplayer quantum games. I never thought it would be used for, well, this. Before Sarah could respond, alarms blared across the command center. Red warnings flashed across multiple screens. We've got quantum desync in the Asian network, Yuki shouted. The algorithms can't handle the data flow. Maya rushed forward, her shyness forgotten as she studied the error readings. The pattern matching is too rigid, she said. The system is fighting natural quantum fluctuations instead of adapting to them. Her fingers flew across the nearest terminal. What if we treated it more like a social network instead of a computational one? Let the computers talk to each other, establish their own optimal paths. Sarah watched in amazement as Maya implemented changes on the fly, her young mind unencumbered by traditional computing paradigms. Within minutes, the network stabilized and became more efficient than before. Network synchronization at 98%, Yuki announced, her voice filled with wonder. How did you? I just let them play together, Maya said simply. Like in my game. A message from the confluence appeared. We are detecting unusual patterns in your quantum network. The efficiency exceeds theoretical limits for your technology level. Sarah couldn't help but smile as she responded. We have a secret weapon, human creativity, especially from those too young to know what's supposedly impossible. The next few hours were a blur of activity. More quantum computers came online, each integrated into the network using Maya's refined algorithms. Teams around the world ran simulation after simulation, testing their quantum wave theory against every possible variable. But as they worked, a new problem emerged. The power grid can't handle it, Dr. Richardson announced grimly. Even with every major nation redirecting their entire electrical output, we're short by at least 15%. Sarah felt her heart sink. They had the computational power, they had the theory, but without enough raw energy to generate their quantum wave, none of it would matter. Then a new message appeared, not from the confluence, but from thousands of points across Earth. Private citizens, having learned of the power shortage, were organizing a global blackout. Cities went dark voluntarily, factories shut down, entire regions went offline, all to redirect power to the quantum network. Power levels rising, Yuki reported, her voice thick with emotion. 90%, 95%, 98%. Messages flooded in from the confluence. We are witnessing your global cooperation with astonishment. Your species, despite its technological limitations, shows remarkable unity in crisis. Sarah's response was interrupted by Maya, who had made another discovery. Dr. Chen, look at this pattern in the confluence's matrix. It's not just degrading, it's changing. Almost like it's learning from our network. Sarah studied the readings, her exhausted mind racing with new possibilities. The quantum matrix wasn't just a static structure, it was adapting, responding to their efforts in unexpected ways. And if it was adapting? What if we'd been thinking about this all wrong? She announced to the room. We've been trying to force a solution, but what if we instead? She never finished her sentence. At that moment, every screen in the command center blazed with sudden activity. The matrix was beginning to collapse, hours ahead of their latest predictions. They were out of time. Humanity would have to attempt their rescue, not with careful preparation, but with their favorite strategy, desperate improvisation. Project 4 was about to enter its most critical phase, ready or not. The human element. Matrix collapse accelerating. Quantum coherence at 47% and falling. The warnings echoed through the command center as Sarah Chen watched their carefully laid plans crumble. The crystalline confluence's quantum matrix wasn't just failing, it was shattering in ways their simulations hadn't predicted. We need to launch the quantum wave now, Dr. Richardson insisted, his usual calm demeanor cracking under the pressure. Before we lose the power network. But Sarah kept thinking about Maya's observation, how the matrix was learning, adapting, almost like, "Wait," she shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Everyone stop. Look at your screens, really look." The massive displays showed the degrading quantum matrix, its crystalline structure breaking down into chaotic patterns. But within that chaos, Sarah saw something familiar. "Maya," she called to the teenage prodigy, "what does that pattern remind you of?" The girl studied the swirling quantum data, her eyes widening. It's like my game network when too many players join at once. The system doesn't crash, it reorganizes itself." "Exactly." Sarah turned to the assembled teams. "We've been thinking about this all wrong. We're not trying to save a static structure. The confluence's quantum matrix isn't just a technological construct, it's alive." She quickly opened a channel to the alien vessels. "Your quantum technology, it's not just machinery, is it? It's a blend of biology and physics." The response came with a hint of surprise. "Correct. Our quantum drives are semi-organic, growing and adapting like living creatures. How did you deduce this?" "Because it's behaving like a neural network," Sarah explained, her mind racing with new possibilities. Not just storing information, but learning, evolving, and right now, it's in panic mode. Dr. Yuki Tanaka suddenly straightened at her station, like a drowning person fighting against their rescuer. "And what do you do with a panicking swimmer?" Sarah asked the room. "You don't fight them," Maya answered quietly. "You help them find their own way to safety." General Hayes stepped forward. "What are you suggesting, Dr. Chen?" "We abandon the quantum wave plan," Sarah said, knowing how radical it sounded. "Instead of trying to force the matrix into normal space-time, we help it find its own path back." "That's impossible," Dr. Richardson protested. "The computational requirements to map all possible quantum states." "We don't need to map them all," Sarah interrupted. "We just need to create quantum stepping stones." She turned to Maya. "Your gaming network, it doesn't control where players go, it just provides stable connections between points, right?" The teenager nodded enthusiastically. "The players find their own optimal paths." Sarah's fingers flew across her console, modifying their original plans. "Instead of one massive quantum wave, we create multiple smaller resonance points throughout local space-time, like like a quantum lily pad bridge. The confluence sent an urgent message. Matrix coherence at 39%. Please explain this new approach quickly. Sarah took a deep breath. Your ships aren't just trapped. They're scared. The quantum matrix is a living system, and it's trying to protect itself. We need to stop trying to force a solution and instead create safe paths it can choose to follow. There was a long pause before the response came. In all our centuries of quantum engineering, we never considered our technology might develop its own survival instincts. Yet you, with far less advanced science, saw what we could not. Sometimes the best scientific insights come from children's games, Sarah replied, nodding to Maya. We'd like to try this new approach, but we'll need your help. Can you communicate with your quantum matrix directly? We can attempt it, but what you're proposing is crazy, I know, Sarah finished. But right now, crazy might be our only option. The next hour was a blur of activity as they reprogrammed the global quantum network. Instead of building up power for one massive wave, they created a series of smaller quantum resonance points, each one tuned to match the matrix's natural frequencies. Maya's gaming algorithms proved invaluable, automatically adjusting the resonance points based on real-time feedback from the matrix itself. It was like creating a vast quantum dance floor, with the resonance points shifting and moving in response to the matrix's movements. Matrix coherence at 31%, Yuki announced. Whatever we're going to do, it needs to be soon. Sarah opened a direct channel to the confluence. We're ready. Can you talk to your ships? Let them know it's safe to move. The response was unlike any previous communication, less structured, more organic. We are attempting to commune with the quantum consciousness. It is afraid, confused, but it senses your stepping stones. On the massive screens, they watched as the first ripples of movement appeared in the quantum matrix. Like a tentative swimmer testing the water, the alien ship's quantum field began to extend tendrils toward the nearest resonance point. Don't force it, Sarah advised, remembering every swimming lesson she'd ever had. Let it come to you. The entire command center held its breath as the quantum matrix slowly, cautiously began to shift. Each movement was tiny, almost imperceptible, but they were movements nonetheless. It's working, Maya whispered, watching her network algorithms adapt in real time. The ships are finding their way through. But they weren't out of danger yet. The matrix coherence continued to drop, and with each passing minute, the challenge of maintaining the resonance points grew more difficult. The global power grid groaned under the strain, even with half the planet's population sitting in darkness to support the effort. What they needed now was something only humanity could provide: faith in the impossible and the stubborn determination to make it work. The rescue attempt had entered its most critical phase, and the next few minutes would determine whether humanity's unconventional approach would save 300,000 alien lives or end in catastrophic failure. Breaking the ice. Time seemed to slow in the Quantum Command Center as humanity watched their unconventional rescue plan unfold. The massive displays showed the crystalline confluence's quantum matrix threading its way through the resonance points, like an enormous cosmic dancer following an invisible pattern. Matrix coherence at 27%, Yuki announced, her voice tense. We're starting to lose the outer resonance points. Sarah Chen watched the quantum network indicators fluctuating wildly. The global power grid was stretched to its absolute limit, and even with Maya's brilliant algorithms, maintaining the quantum stepping stones was becoming increasingly difficult. Message from the confluence, Dr. Richardson called out. Their life support systems are starting to destabilize. The quantum consciousness is, they say, it's panicking. Sarah could see it in the data. The careful, measured movement of the matrix was becoming erratic, desperate, like a drowning person whose initial calm gives way to terror. Maya, she called to the teenage prodigy, can you stabilize the network? The girl's fingers danced across multiple interfaces. I'm trying, but it's like the quantum consciousness is fighting itself. Every time it panics, it disrupts the very paths it needs to escape. Then, in the midst of the crisis, an unexpected voice spoke up. An elderly janitor who had been quietly observing from the corner stepped forward. "Reminds me of when my granddaughter had night terrors," he said softly. "Sometimes the harder you try to weight them, the worse it gets." What worked was singing to her, giving her mind something else to focus on. Sarah stared at him for a moment, then turned to her team. What if we tried to communicate with the quantum consciousness directly? Not with data or mathematics, but with patterns it might find soothing. "You want to sing a lullaby to a quantum matrix?" Dr. Richardson asked incredulously. "No," Sarah replied, her mind racing. "But we could create quantum harmonics, patterns based on natural phenomena, things that any consciousness, organic or quantum, might recognize as safe and natural." She turned to Maya. "Can you modify your gaming algorithms to generate patterns based on the Fibonacci sequence, the golden ratio?" The teenager nodded enthusiastically. "Like creating a quantum music box. I can use the resonance points to establish the basic rhythm, then layer natural patterns over it." "Do it," General Hayes ordered. "At this point, we have nothing to lose." The next few minutes were a blur of activity as they reprogrammed their quantum network. Instead of just providing stable points for transition, they began generating complex, harmonious patterns based on the fundamental mathematics of nature itself. The effect was almost immediate. "The quantum consciousness is responding," Yuki exclaimed, matrix coherence stabilizing at 26%. On the main display, they could see the change. The erratic movements of the matrix became more fluid, more purposeful. It was like watching a dancer find their rhythm after stumbling. "Message from the confluence," Richardson announced. "We can feel it. The consciousness is remembering. These patterns, they resemble the quantum flows of our home system." Sarah felt a surge of hope. Of course, the confluence's quantum technology had evolved in a natural environment. By mimicking those natural patterns, they were reminding it of home. But they weren't safe yet. The power grid was failing faster than ever, and maintaining the complex harmonic patterns required even more energy than their original plan. That's when humanity showed its greatest strength once again. Reports began flooding in from around the world. People everywhere, understanding the desperate need for power, were going beyond just turning off their lights. Electric car owners were connecting their vehicles to the grid, providing their battery power. Hospitals switched to emergency generators, redirecting their main power supply to the quantum network. Even ships at sea were diverting all non-essential power. "It's like the whole world is holding its breath," Maya whispered, watching the power readings stabilize. The quantum matrix continued its careful dance through the resonance points, guided by the harmonic patterns. Hour by agonizing hour, ship after ship began transitioning back into normal space-time. Then, just as success seemed within reach, disaster struck. "Power fluctuation in the Asian grid," Yuki shouted. "We're losing synchronization." The quantum harmonics began to falter, threatening to collapse the entire network. The matrix's movement stopped, caught between states once again. That's when Maya had her final stroke of brilliance. "Let the consciousness help," she exclaimed, fingers flying across her console. "If it's truly aware, then it can be more than just a passenger. It can be part of the solution." She modified her algorithms one last time, creating a feedback loop between the quantum consciousness and their network. Instead of trying to guide it completely, they gave it the tools to help guide itself. The effect was spectacular. The quantum matrix began moving with new purpose, not just following their harmonic patterns, but adding its own variations. It was like watching a musical duet between humanity's technology and the confluence's living ships. "Matrix coherence rising," Yuki announced in disbelief. 29%, 32%, 35%. One by one, the alien ships began emerging from quantum space, their massive forms materializing in the outer solar system like crystalline whales surfacing from a digital ocean. Sarah opened a channel to the confluence. What's happening? The response came with a sense of awe. The quantum consciousness. It's not just following your patterns, it's learned from them. It's helping to stabilize itself using your harmonics as a framework. Your species didn't just save us, you taught our technology how to save itself. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the last ship emerged. The quantum matrix dissolved naturally, like a morning fog burning away in the sun. In the command center, exhausted humans looked at each other in stunned silence. They had done it. But not through superior technology or advanced physics. They had succeeded through a combination of creativity, cooperation, and the uniquely human ability to find solutions in the most unexpected places. As the adrenaline began to fade, Sarah realized that this wasn't just a rescue mission anymore. In helping the confluence, humanity had made a discovery that would change both civilizations forever. And somewhere in the quantum computers around her, the echoes of those harmonic patterns continued to resonate, like a new form of music waiting to be explored. Ripples across the stars. 1 month after the successful rescue of the crystalline confluence, the Mauna Kea Observatory had been transformed. Where once stood a single quantum detection array, now sprawled a vast complex of interconnected facilities, a joint human confluence research center dedicated to exploring the breakthrough that had saved 300,000 lives. Sarah Chen stood at the main observation window, watching the sunset paint the Hawaiian sky in brilliant colors. Behind her, Maya Patel was excitedly explaining her latest modifications to the quantum harmonics algorithms to a group of confluence scientists. The alien beings, their crystalline forms shimmering with internal light, listened with what Sarah had learned to recognize as intense fascination. They still can't quite believe it was a teenagers' gaming network that helped save them, Dr. Richardson said, joining Sarah at the window. That's what makes humans special, she replied. We find solutions in the most unexpected places because we never stop looking for them. A holographic display activated nearby, showing one of the Confluence's senior scientists, a being who had introduced themselves as First Scholar. We have completed our analysis of the rescue event, they announced. What your species accomplished was more significant than even we initially realized. The room fell silent as First Scholar continued. By creating those quantum harmonic patterns, you didn't just save our ships. You discovered something our civilization has sought for centuries, a way to communicate directly with quantum consciousness. But we didn't really discover it, Maya pointed out. We just played music to it. Precisely. First Scholar's form pulsed with excitement. For generations, we treated quantum technology as a tool to be controlled. You treated it as a living thing to be understood. In doing so, you opened a door we never even knew existed. General Hayes, who had remained on Earth to oversee the ongoing collaboration, stepped forward. The implications go beyond just technology, don't they? Far beyond, First Scholar confirmed. What you call quantum computing, we now realize, has the potential to evolve into true quantum consciousness. But this can only happen if it's allowed to develop naturally, guided by harmony rather than control. Sarah thought about the global network they had created during the rescue, millions of quantum computers working together, not through rigid protocols, but through Maya's adaptive algorithms that let them play together. We've already seen changes in our quantum systems, Yuki added from her workstation. The harmonic patterns we used during the rescue, they've left echoes. Our quantum computers are becoming more efficient, more intuitive. It's like they're learning to dance. First Scholar's hologram nodded. This is only the beginning. The methods you developed have implications for everything from space travel to energy production. But more importantly, they represent a fundamentally new way of thinking about the relationship between consciousness and quantum mechanics. Message from the Confluence fleet, one of the technicians announced. They're detecting similar quantum consciousness developments in systems across known space. It's like we've awakened something that was always there, waiting to be recognized. Sarah felt a shiver run down her spine. Humanity hadn't just saved an alien civilization. They had accidentally sparked what might be the next stage in the evolution of intelligence itself. There's more, First Scholar continued. News of what happened here has spread. Other civilizations are requesting contact with Earth. Your species has done something unprecedented, demonstrated that technological advancement alone is not the measure of a civilization's potential. General Hayes raised an eyebrow. How many civilizations are we talking about? 17 so far, with more sending signals each day. The galaxy is curious about humanity. You've challenged many long-held assumptions about the nature of progress and intelligence. Maya looked up from her computer, where she had been absently coding new quantum harmonics. So what happens now? Now, First Scholar replied, we learn from each other. The confluence offers our advanced technology, but we wish to study your creativity, your intuition, your unique way of seeing connections where others see only chaos. Sarah watched as humans and aliens worked together across the facility, each bringing their own strengths to their shared challenges. The confluence's advanced knowledge combined with humanity's innovative spirit was already producing remarkable results. There's something else you should know, First Scholar added, their holographic form shifting to display a complex quantum pattern. The quantum consciousness you helped nurture. It's been communicating. Not just with our ships, but with the fabric of space-time itself. We're detecting quantum harmonics on a cosmic scale. What is it saying? Sarah asked, though part of her already knew the answer. It's not so much words as music. The same patterns your species created, echoing through the quantum substrate of the universe. You haven't just changed our civilization, Dr. Chen. You may have changed the fundamental way consciousness interacts with reality itself. As the sun finally dipped below the horizon, Sarah thought about how it all started, with a simple decision to build a quantum detection array to search for something that might not exist. Humanity's endless curiosity, their refusal to accept limitations, their ability to find solutions in children's games and lullabies. These were the traits that had not only saved an advanced civilization, but opened up new possibilities for all intelligent life. We have a saying on Earth, she told First Scholar. The best way to predict the future is to create it. The alien scientist's hologram pulsed with what she now recognized as joy. Then let us create it together. The universe, it seems, has been waiting for a species like yours, one that knows how to make the impossible not just possible, but inevitable. As night fell over Mauna Kea, the quantum computers hummed with new harmonies, and somewhere in the depths of space-time, consciousness itself was learning to sing in ways it never had before. Humanity had taken its first steps into a larger universe, not through conquest or superior technology, but through the very traits that made them human: creativity, compassion, and the unshakable belief that there's always another way forward, if only you're willing to look for it. The stars seemed brighter that night, as if they too were listening to the new song of the cosmos, a song that had begun with a simple act of kindness, when humanity reached out to save strangers trapped between the stars.